Welcome to Drift Tips with DBAG. Today we're going to go over basic wheel settings and set up your stuff to start drifting. If you have a Logitech wheel, you're going to want to copy these settings I have on screen for G-Hub. Put your sensitivity to 50, 900 degrees of operating range. Centering spring, you can turn that on, move it from 20 to 0, and then turn it back off. And then you can just go ahead and close G-Hub. Next up, we're going to have you open up a content manager. Go to Settings, Assetto Corsa, Axis. Here you should change this for degrees to 900. Keep your gamma at 1, scale 100. For your pedals and whatnot, if you're on a Logitech, they will all need to be inverted, otherwise you'll be constantly full throttle. For everybody else, it should just be the normal. And then you could just press your pedal after you click this right here to bind each of them individually. Then you're going to head on over to System. I like to do setup in pits, that way in case there is somebody doing donuts in the pits, or messing around, when you spawn into the pits, you won't get T-boned and have your wheel snap or your finger snap. It can be pretty painful. Then you go to Patch. And on the bottom right over here, you'll see Increase FFB and Decrease. You should bind a button for each of those. You can use that per car then for your force feedback changes in-game. I like to run my software at 100%, the Assetto Corsa gain at 100, and then in-game per car I change each force feedback level, and you should only have to do it once per car and it should save. Then you go to force feedback, gain at 100, filter at 0. I don't like to use any effect because my software does it for me. I believe most wheels software will automatically determine that. Some Logitech guys like to have that on, but I don't think you technically need it for at least most of the wheels. All this, I just keep at like basic stock settings or shut it off completely. Some other things I like to change are custom shaders patch. In the GUI, you can go over to use throttle pedal to start race. I know when you do setup in pits that you have to go up and hit the steering wheel to start the race each time or start to drive. If you just turn that on, all you need to do is hit the gas pedal and you can take off out of the pits. Then you can go up to general patch settings. Then you can change stop AC from using D-pads and stop digits from changing turbo setting. That way, in case you have like a D-pad setup or anything like that, some of the keybinds are double binds where they will change your turbo settings or start to open that pits menu up, and nobody wants to see that. To get rid of that pits menu that might pop up, go up to the little search bar here and just type in pit, and then on the bottom left you'll see a check mark. Just uncheck that. And that should get rid of that little pop-up on like Brooklyn Park that never leaves your screen until you leave the pits area. You can go over to Content Manager, hit Drive, and then if you don't want to see those race results after you're done with driving each time, you can just go and check each one of those, and then it'll stop that pop-up from coming every single time you leave a game. If you don't have a ton of cars or tracks yet, you can go over to Drive, Online, and then up by this little magnifying glass here, you could type in like ACS Drift, hit enter. You might not see anything if you have missing checked. Just go ahead and uncheck that, and it'll reset every time you search. The way to stop that is right down here in these three little dots. Click that. I like to set sorting by drivers, that way you know what the most popular servers are. And then you can check set sorting as default for new tabs and set filters as default for new tabs, so every time you search it won't reset. For downloading missing content, if you find one that you do not have the track or cars for on any ACS server, right here you can see that, just hit install missing content. It'll start to flash up here. A lot of people like to left click and it brings this up and hit install, but that can be very glitchy. So what I like to do is just right click, hit install all, and then it should automatically load up. If for some reason you're downloading a bunch of cars or tracks and it keeps saying one of them isn't downloaded properly, just close Content Manager, reopen it, and it should work just fine. Alright, so once you're loaded into a game, one thing I like to do is go up to Apps on the right side of your screen, and there you can find App Shelf. You can open that up, and you'll scroll on down to Radar, hit open, and then Setup Exchange. hit open on that. You might have to hit enable or something like that too, or install. And then I'm going to go ahead and close Setup Exchange and App Shelf. I'll pull that up in a second. But here's the car radar, and it kind of like puts a little clip art symbol of your vehicle and the other car near you or other cars near you. You can change that in the settings, like how it's set up with your FOV and whatnot. That's just nice to figure out what the angle is of the guy in front of you, behind you, or if you're coming in too strong, your angle's too shallow. A lot of times you'll end up going really fast when you first start drifting. It's usually because you're cutting angle and you're not matching what they're doing in front of you, and you'll think you're super fast and you know how to drift, but they don't. But the reality is they're throwing more angle than you and going a little bit slower because of that angle. So it's just a nice little feature to have. But if you go back to pits and you hit the wrench up here after you have Setup Exchange on, you'll have this little drop down here, and you can uncheck the show setup for current track only. And then all of these will be tunes that other people have loaded that you may like, may hate. All you gotta do is hit apply, and it will override your current settings for your car. And you can just give it a whirl, and if you do like it, you could just say, let's say we pick walnuts here. All you gotta do is type in something, and then just hit save. Another setting you might be looking for is audio. You can actually change that in-game. So if you go up here to your apps, you can find audio. I already got mine open up here. And you can change the master engine of your car or the opponent's engines in case one car pack is louder than the other. I just like to keep it as a minimized box up here because I noticed that there's a lot of car packs that just are all over the place. You just gotta kind of turn down each sound or turn them up depending on the car pack itself. If you are noticing any kind of lagginess or your graphics just aren't as good as you think they should be, you can open up render stats. I already got mine open over here. You can just search at the top, and if you drag it open, you'll see 3 little dots up here. If you just click that, you can see performance tips. It'll open up a new window, and it'll tell you how many FPS you're losing for each setting. You might not have anything here. Some guys will have like 68 FPS to lose just by having extra effects. And all you gotta do is just double click it, and it should disable it from here. It doesn't always save it properly, so I would try to find that exact wording inside of your CSP somewhere, and you should be able to fix it, and you'll stop having that lag or might gain a couple FPS for little things. Just kind of depends on what your graphics are set to. Another request I get is neck effects. So that's where your neck will turn into the transition with your wheel. So as you turn it left and right. But another thing you can change is your onboard camera settings. So if you don't like the way your car or your driver's model is sitting, you can open this up here. And I personally run a 70 FOV. It's all personal preference. I think there's calculators online you can use, but I know a lot of people like to push towards 70 or a little bit lower. But you can change your camera up, down, left, right, kind of fit where you are sitting in real life. You can also bind the buttons in your custom shaders or your Assetto Corsa controls, so you can move it a little bit quicker. I like to run roof cam, makes things a little bit easier to see since you don't have the sensation of the car unless you have a full motion rig. That way you can kind of see how close you are to somebody's door when you're drifting. Just gives you a little bit more of an advantage. Another app I like to use is the Pedals app, the right side of your screen. You can open this up, and you'll kind of see all your throttle inputs and whatnot. But this bar over here will be your like kind of clipping indicator. If you'll see, it's nice and gray. That's kind of where you want it. But if you have your force feedback set too high, it'll start to clip out, and that's not good because you just be causing a lot of heat to get to your wheel, and it could just be not getting the proper, I guess, feedback that you need to get. So like all the dirt and the gravel and all the kind of way the road textures are, it's just going to be 100% all the time. I see it a lot on Logitech users because they have such a low force feedback already. They think cranking it up is going to make it feel better. It's actually kind of like running your vehicle wide open at redline all the time. It just, I mean, you can, but eventually it's going to overheat. So when that bar turns red like that, all you got to do is, when you bound that force feedback button before, you just got to turn it down to about 75 to 80 is where the Logitechs usually start to clip out on most of the popular drift car packs. Hopefully this video was able to help some of you guys out, learning how to drift, kind of getting your wheels set up properly. If it did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Or if you have any more questions, you could hit me up in the comments section. or hit me up on the ACS Drift Discord. I'll leave a link down below. All right, thanks. Bye.